Here are your fantasy football waiver ads heading into week 15. Starting at quarterback, CJ Stroud, 42% rostered. All these numbers are from Yahoo Leagues. Stroud ends this fantasy season with games against Arizona, Las Vegas, and the Chargers. Perfect timing for Stroud, who will try to be helping his team win the AFC South. We'll see if Stroud can capitalize his schedule and help your fantasy team as well. Next, we got to go with Shedeur Sanders, 8% rostered. I doubt he has any type of game like he had against the Titans, but you can't take it away from 364 yards, 3 touchdowns. A pick, ran for 29 yards and a touchdown. Tennessee's not a good pass defense, but Sanders got it done. A lot of quarterbacks never had that type of game. Sanders did. Right now, just on the chance he's able to repeat it, need a streamer or especially a super flex option, Sanders would be the one. All right, these are really digging deep. This is 2 quarterback only leagues, not super flex. If you need a body in there, Riley Leonard of the Indianapolis Colts. Now that Daniel Jones tore his Achilles and is done for the season, Riley Leonard did go 18 for 29 for 145 and a pick, rushed for a touchdown against Jacksonville. Now that game, Jacksonville had a big lead. They kind of backed off. So I don't think Leonard is going to do a whole lot with the offense. But again, in a 2 quarterback league, every quarterback has value, which leads us to Brady Cook, New York Jets. Tyrod Taylor left this week's game with a groin injury, and Justin Fields was already ruled out with a knee injury. So again, if you are desperate for a body of quarterback, Cook only completed 14 of 30 against a bad Miami secondary, 163 and 2 picks. Not good, but again, could be somebody if you have an injured starter to replace. And then finally, Kenny Pickett. We're not quite sure if he is going to get a start, but he did finish the game 8 of 11, 98, a touchdown, had a 6-yard run. It is certainly possible that with Geno Smith having suffered an injury, that if he misses time, Pickett could do something. He has Brock Bowers at least, so there's that. But yeah, that'd be a 2 quarterback option. Running back position, Blake Corum, 33% rostered in Yahoo Leagues, had a great game against the Cardinals. 12 carries, a $128 and 2 touchdowns, and a 3-yard catch. But here's the deal. Corum in his last 6 games, 3 of those games, 12 or 13 carries, the other 3, 7 or 8. He has a floor. But in those games, he has a pair of 56 and 58s. The last 2 weeks, he's been his best, though. Carolina, 7 for 81 and a touchdown to go with his big game against Arizona. Blake Corum is going to continue to see some work. Kyron Williams, the lead back. But look, if the Rams are winning big, Corum's a closer back for them. Chris Rodriguez, 37% rostered. The ceiling hasn't been great, but he did have 10 carries and a blowout loss against Minnesota. He would have had a lot more work had the game not been so lopsided. But again, about 5 yards a carry against Denver, 41 yards and a touchdown. Miami, 85 scrimmage yards. He scored touchdowns in 3 of the last 5. Sometimes we need a running back. Chris Rodriguez definitely is the lead runner in Washington. Next, Devin Singletary, 24% rostered. New York Giants had a bye last week. Singletary gets double-digit touches every week. It's been at least 13 touches in his last 3 games. He has scored 3 touchdowns in his last 3. He has a couple of 3 reception games. Singletary's part of this offense. Now, Tracy did get dinged up in the game before the bye. It seemed minor. He'll probably be back. But even in a timeshare, Devin Singletary can help your fantasy team. Jalen Wright, Miami Dolphins, is next. Devon Achane did leave the game against the Jets in the first half, but it seemed, based on Coach McDaniel's comments, that we could have seen Achane if the game was closer. But that said, Jalen Wright was battling Ollie Gordon for that number 2 role. Jalen Wright goes 24 for a $107 and a touchdown against the Jets. So my guess is Wright starts to see a little more work while Gordon doesn't. But again, if Achane were to miss time, Wright did look really good. Next, this is just on the speed dial list. Jalen McLaughlin, 2% rostered. Should RJ Harvey miss some time, they really don't have much in the way of running back depth. McLaughlin would see a real role. All right, if you're enjoying this breakdown, take a second, hit like and subscribe. Helps RotoWire keep the fantasy advice coming your way. If you want even more of our tools, rankings, and insights, we got a 15% discount just for our YouTube viewers. You go to rotowire.com, you pick out a subscription, use the code YouTube15 at checkout. All right, we got the wide receivers next. Jaden Reed activated after a long absence from injured reserve, 41% rostered in Yahoo leagues. He got 6 touches, 2 carries, went for 22 yards, caught all 4 targets for 31, 53 yards and 6 touches. Not bad. Now, we know his usage has always been kind of sketchy with the Green Bay coaching staff, but he's a very talented player. And look, Jaden Reed could become something if they decide to use him on a regular basis. All right, Ryan Flanoy is next, 1% rostered, goes for 115 yards and a touchdown on 13 targets against Detroit. CeeDee Lamb apparently was feeling better the day after he got the concussion on the Thursday night game. There's an extended layoff till the next game, but if there is any chance that Lamb misses time, Flanoy has been great on a couple different occasions this year. Even before this game against Kansas City, 3 targets, caught all 3 for 34 yards on 38% of the snaps. So he might have been getting a little bit of a role. Anyone, Dallas has to throw the ball all day as it is. Jaden Higgins, Houston Texans, 42% rostered. Jaden Higgins routinely gets between 5 and 9 targets in games. He had his best yardage game after week 8 in week 13. He was getting, 34 to 50 yards. He had a 65-yard game in week 13. I'm filming this during the Sunday night game against Kansas City, but Jaden Higgins is a player who's going to be a regular part of the Houston wide receiver rotation. Devon Vele's next, New Orleans Saints, 19% rostered. Bailey did not have a good game against Tampa Bay. Why? Because New Orleans was beating the Bucs and they didn't have to throw only 20 pass attempts. They're normally throwing 35 to 40. When they're throwing, Bailey gets targets. The previous 2 games, total of 15 targets. He had a 3 for 37 against Atlanta, an 8 for 93 and a touchdown against Miami. They need a third person to go with Olave and Juwan Johnson, and they're going to trail in a lot of games on the stretch, and Bailey is a talented possession receiver. Next, Pat Bryant, Denver Broncos, 3% rostered. He went 4 for 32 on 4 targets against the Raiders, but look, they didn't have to do a whole lot aggressively on offense in that game. They were beating the Raiders pretty soundly. Pat Bryant has seen his snaps go from the 50-ish% range in 3 of the last 4 games. He's been over 57. He had a 70% against Washington. He has taken over a lot of the role that we saw Troy Franklin playing. Now, the targets are still kind of close, but Bryant really could emerge at any time. Next, we have Luther Burden, Chicago Bears. Burden stepped up with Rome Odunze out against the Packers, led the team with 6 targets, 4 catches, and 67 yards. Burden, 17% rostered in Yahoo leagues. Burden had 7 PPR points in each of his previous 2 games, so he's starting to come on a little bit. So he has 5 or 6 targets in 3 straights. The Bears look like they're going to make a move with him. Super deep leagues. Jalen Brooks, Arizona Cardinals. If Marvin Harrison misses more time, we already know Greg Dortch is done for the season. Jalen Brooks had 3 targets, catching 2 for 32. Again, super deep league, not a lot of upside, but something. And then just a watch list. If Tyrod Taylor comes back from his groin injury soon, John Mechie's 9% rostered, Adonai Mitchell's 26% rostered. This week they did little because Brady Cook was at quarterback, but both are viable fantasy plays in your deeper leagues if Tyrod Taylor's under center. And then we have the tight ends, Harold Fannin. Fannin had a game against Tennessee, caught 8 of 11 targets for 114 and a touchdown. He's touchdowns 2 weeks in a row, at least 40 yards in 4 of his last 5 games. He is the only reliable receiver on the Browns right now. Dalton Schultz, Houston Texans, next, 47% rostered. Look, Dalton Schultz often gets 8+ targets a game, and he frequently will catch at least 6 of those. His yardage is normally in the 50-ish range. He, in your PPR leagues, is a great floor play if you've got an unreliable tight end. Next, Colston Loveland, Chicago Bears, 40% rostered. Loveland has scored touchdowns in 2 of the last 3 games. He has at least 40 yards in 4 of the last 6 games, and the targets, he's between 4 and 6 targets in 5 straight. There's still possibility that the Bears could continue to expand his role as they get closer to their playoff run. Next, Mike Gesicki, Cincinnati Bengals, 2% rostered. Gesicki has been playing well with Joe Burrow against New England, 4 for 35 on 6 targets. Now, the Baltimore game, he didn't do a lot, 2 for 19 on 4 targets, but it's still 4 targets. But then he went off in this most recent game, and we saw Gesicki 6 for 86 and a touchdown against the Bills. He's a glorified slot receiver, not guaranteed volume, but in that offense, with the Bengals having to score points, he has real upside. And finally, Isaiah Likely. Look, Isaiah Likely, against Cincinnati, went 5 for 95, fumbled a potential touchdown. We knew it was just all Cincinnati because they everything to tight ends. But we come back, and he has the game against the Steelers, 4 for 25 and a touchdown. Again, not like super upside. That game against Cincinnati, like I said, was probably an outlier, but he's getting more red zone looks. So if you're in a league where you need a second tight end, likely might be worth a look.